so much, Brett, Jennifer, and Monica, for being here with me today and to talk about your session that's going to be coming up at the Step Up Conference on April 28th. And so your session is going to be from 2 to 4. And you have a session that is called Cultural Humility, Empathy, and Compassion, Becoming the Coral in the Coral Reef. Being from Hawaii, I'm all about the coral and the coral reef. So tell me a little bit about, that session.
Yeah, well, I guess I can start. A lot of the session will be introducing folks to the cultural humility, empathy, and compassion framework. And so we'll use some of that time to really kind of dig in a little bit deeper. What is the cultural humility, empathy, and compassion framework for ultimately, how do we connect with each other using it? And so they'll get exposed really to the framework itself, but then we'll get into practicing using some of the check tools that we've got connected to it. And then we will also present this idea of kind of diversity viewed through the lens of a coral reef, and what does that look like? And so Monica and Jen will be digging into that for us, and Edith will be joining us as well. We've got another presenter, Edith, who wasn't able to join us today, but will be there as well. And then we'll try and tie it all together for folks so that they can see the connections as well as how to use the tools that we give them that are connected to the check, cultural humility, empathy, and compassion. We call it CHEC, C-H-E-C framework.
Nice. So Jen and Monica, tell me about the coral reef part of it.
Yeah, so this was really Monica's brainchild. So Monica has sort of this in-depth, and Monica, I'm speaking for you, but then I'll stop, I promise. But so where this started is that Monica has sort of this really in-depth passion about environmentalism and about sort of the damage, particularly with the ocean, and because she's a scuba diver. And so this idea of the coral reef and, talking about that sort of in environmental terms and how biodiversity is so important. And just it made we were just having this conversation about how it is a perfect analogy. It's a perfect theory for social connection. Like the idea of the coral reef as a social structure for humans, like how we involve ourselves in community. And so now I'll stop talking for Monica. I'm introducing Monica. Monica, she's fabulous and came up with this idea. Monica, take it away.
Yeah, just as Jen actually really helped with kind of formulating how to make that connection, but even more so to keep in mind that we are on Mother Earth, and this is the only one that we have. And so to kind of keep in perspective that to having an underlying respect for, where we are placed, as well as, then building upon that we are all people that share this space, this place too. And so keeping that sense of being cognizant and transparent with that we're not a melting pot. We're not just taking advantage of what each of us individually can provide, but more so like what we can do together. And that keeping the coral reef in mind just kept bringing up the thought of, we all not only individually play a part, but we all take ownership in that sense of we all have a place. And so
this makes me think of, just the coral reef itself. And I love the analogy because what I think about is being born and raised in Hawaii during the pandemic when nobody was traveling to Hawaii. I was able to go back home, and my sisters and I, for the first time in a long time, we were in the water, and the coral reef had sea cucumbers that was this big that we haven't seen in a long time. There was fish that my father would always go out and fish for that we saw, and we're like, this is amazing. The water was crystal clear and everything was alive. And so as you're talking about the humility and the empathy and compassion, it is not just with each other. It is for Mother Earth, like you were saying, Monica, and the connection to that, that if we're not going to take care of her, she's not going to take care of us. Right? So yes, that is amazing. And so for your participants, what are some of the things that they could expect when they come into your session?
Yeah.
Brett?
Yeah, sure. So expect that there'll be a lot of information given at first, but then we're going to do breakout sessions where folks get to not only just kind of analyze things the topics that we bring up, from their own perspectives, but also be able to then take some of the learning that happened, earlier and actually apply it in those breakout sessions, and then coming back and having some more larger group work as well. Most of it is going to be in the form of like discussion and processing the information that comes up. And that'll be kind of the majority of it, is really information, breaking out, connecting with folks, hopefully, coming back as a group, connecting as a larger group. And really, my hope is, and really any workshop or presentation or anything that we do, is that we are able to create a community, not just of learners, but really of individuals who can really show up as themselves in this space. So that's a big piece of what we're trying to do with the check framework, is to help folks be authentic and how they show up, to not necessarily have to bring these roles with them that have been maybe prescribed to them to a certain degree, and really get in tune and in touch with themselves and be here as themselves, because that's what we ultimately want. I think all of us honestly are just looking for a space where we can be fully embraced for who we are, and not have to hide behind a title or this mask here that I put on, or whatever it is, or these ideas of who I am from the outside, and really just be embraced for who I am. So that's what we expect folks to experience as well.
Nice. Jen, Monica, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and the breakout sessions are always my favorite. And I think we're going to be doing some dyads, correct, at the beginning, and then larger group. Okay, so the dyads are so marvelous because they really give people an opportunity to connect, which the whole check framework is designed around that. It's how do we connect better with other people in our authentic selves, kind of thing. So I love the breakouts, and they're very fun, and they're very meaty usually. Like you get to dig into the heart and soul of it. It's great.
Nice. Monica?
Yeah, it's mainly around connecting, because that's something we don't really get to do often. Like majority of introductions are always like, oh, what do you do? And that can be very intimidating for most, but to just come to a common place with another framework of thinking and openness to just allow people to be like, oh, I am who I am, versus, any form of pleasantries. So just kind of nice to get to know someone that you probably wouldn't reach out to automatically, because shyness, all these things, but it just cultivating more of putting yourself out there and being brave to do so.
That's great. It's like when you're talking about this connection, society has taught us that we're so separate, that we are so separate from nature. We're so separate from each other. And we've created this space to where we are actually in boxes. We exist in these boxes that we believe is there. Our titles, right? Our ethnicity, our socialization, right? Everything has caused us to be divided. And when we are divided, especially when we are divided from each other, then we are also divided from nature. We don't know how to care for each other when we are divided. We don't know how to care for nature. So we harm each other and everything around us. So this session sounds like a session that individuals who are wanting to know what is that connection, that human connection like, right? To step into the idea that we are not separate. It's our mind that is separated. And so coming together and offering that at Step Up is going to be amazing. I really appreciate you all doing that, because I feel that in our society today, we need to be more connected. And when we can connect to one another, we can actually find healing with each other, right? And when we heal ourselves, we heal the collective. And when the collective heal, our nation heals, our environment heals, and then we can all thrive. Awesome. Simple. It is so simple.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love hearing that, because
Perfect.
you get it. You get it. And I think that's the most important thing. We labeled this as a beginner workshop because of the simplicity that you talk about. It's definitely can get more complex, but if we continue to just connect to the simplicity of it, we really all have access to it. This is something that is just fundamental to who we are as human beings. And like you said, these boxes keep us separate from each other, and the healing doesn't happen. And I think that that's another important thing that you brought up, is that really the Czech framework has really expanded itself from just connection to healing. And that's kind of the direction that we're really focused on now, is that healing aspect.
Yeah. It's so important. I mean, it's like we have created this ourselves as well too. We have created this separation where we don't see each other for the greatness and the brilliance that each and every one of us brings. We have put these lenses on to see that you're white, you're black, you're brown, and systems have been created around that to keep us separate. And, it's like the ocean is vast. It is the water that connects us all, right? And so it's like when you are bridging the human element and the environmental element, the indigenous part of myself, this is what we need to do, is to just reconnect. So what motivated you all to be a presenter at Step Up?
Okay, I'm jumping in because I'm pushy. I've attended a couple of Step Ups, and the first one that I actually attended was when Brett and I were a speaker at it. And it was truly one of the most, I loved being a speaker, and that was great. But what I loved even more than that were the sessions. It was life-changing in a lot of ways for me. And then being able to go back in and watch all the sessions that I couldn't go to, how do you choose? It's the hardest choice to be like, I want to go to that one, and I also want to go to this one. And just having that breadth of opportunity, this is such an amazing, wonderful conference, and the speakers and the opportunity for learning and the ways to really push your boundaries, and growth hurts, and that's awesome. I just think that it's wonderful, and this is just most supportive, fabulous community. And all the front end things where you get to go into Kuwada and compete for whatever that thing is. I was in hard competition the first year, just so you know. I was like, I am gonna win. That is what's, and I didn't. It was fine. It was fine. I don't mind losing. But being able to really see everybody and see the people interacting and the stuff that was being suggested by participants, it's amazing. It's such a connected and really invigorated group. So, yes.
Thanks, Jen.
For myself, I'm more so being brave to put myself out there. So participating, really building that connection by the action of this idea, and sharing it with people, just to really express my own sense of justice, and really put myself at the table to be able to be amongst other people, to just share my thoughts and my beliefs, and hopefully it'll bring together other people who feel the same. And so, first step into my sense uh, of giving back, or and to participate in the community.
Great. Thanks, Monica. Brett.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, this goes way back, probably to like the first or second step up. I can't remember, but I presented way back there. And I think I came to your session as well.
That was a long time ago.
Was that like it was like the first or second one, right?
Yes.
And so for me, this is about, I mean, it started in our community in Snohomish County, and seeing it really grow from something that's, I think there was maybe a couple hundred people there or something like that, into this huge thing where there's going to be well over 700 people this year. That it's really exciting to see that. And I imagine that the Snohomish County branch is going way out at this point and connecting to folks maybe across the country, which is awesome. And so I think there's that piece along with the history, but also just this opportunity to really connect with a topic that is, I feel like, so near and dear to my heart. This idea of really stepping up to moving racial equity forward, that we've kind of, I felt like we've stalled at times in our history, that there's movement and then stalling, movement, stalling. And so to have a conference that's all about continuously moving this forward every single year, to me, is just really powerful and so important. So, yeah.
And we do have people, we have presenters that's coming in from California, from Tucson, from Michigan. So it has, and I mean, I think it starts here in Snohomish, but it has grown beyond the boundaries of our hometown,
That's so
which
exciting.
it is so exciting. And so we're hoping that, it continues to grow and everything. And so as as we're thinking about your session, who's your target audience?
Yeah, we kind of opened this up for everybody. We really believe that there is so much that anybody could take away from this. And so we don't necessarily have a target audience being like one demographic, really feeling like, again, that simplicity, and the connectedness that we have, the ability to connect that we all have, that really this is for hopefully anybody and everybody.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so I have a big question for all of you. What is the single most important message you want to convey to your audience to help move racial equity forward?
I could say the most important that comes to mind is continuing to show up for one another. And especially with the mindset of compassion, empathy, and everything in between. But in and without holding on to any biases that could cloud our judgment. That, to just always lead yourself and show up with transparency and openness. So.
Thanks, Monica. Jen, you're next.
Oh, I'm next. I'm like, Brett, are you saying who's next? Sit in silence. I'm like, ponder that. Did you absorb it? It's good. So I think one of the things that's really important is that the recognition that we're not alone, not just in sort of the interconnectedness of the water and where we all are, but really that I know that there are communities where groups of people that feel really disempowered and marginalized and oppressed can feel really isolated in the community and feel like they're fighting the good fight or working really hard to move this forward and racial equity forward. And then they just see us move, they just see it move backwards, or, one step forward, 10 steps back. And that can feel really disempowering. And I think that recognizing that we are all interconnected and that you aren't alone. Like as you're making these steps here, so is it happening down the reef as well. And that as we continue to feel empowered and inspired and connected, that can spread. So that's what I think is important.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. Oh, awesome stuff. For me, I really feel like we're in a time and place that we need healing, and that healing doesn't necessarily happen in this context without each other, and that we have to be able to connect and come together in order to do the healing that we all need. And every single person, talking about across the world, but really in our country, is experiencing and has experienced trauma from the system that we find ourselves in. And every single person needs healing from that. And so for me, the message is really, we have to come together. We need to be able to communicate, to connect in order to ultimately heal from this trauma that we've all experienced. So let's come together and do that healing work together.
Absolutely. And with healing, when you get to this place where you want to set the trajectory towards healing, you need to be humble. There needs to be humility in it, because as you start to unpack biases, when you start to unpack and dismantle systems, there's going to be things that you yourself are going to have to face up with, right? And having the humility to just be like, oh, I benefited from this. How am I going to change it? How am I going to engage in these conversations? And being compassionate about that as well, too. Having the compassion to be, all right, maybe this system was not set for me. I can be angry about it and be pissed off about it, or I can engage in conversations that can be very complex, be heart focused, and have the compassion and the empathy to engage in the conversations to where it's like, hurt people, heal people. So let's shift the conversation.
Love
And
that.
so it sounds like anyone who wants to understand more about the connectedness and the empathy and the compassion on how to be human with each other so we can coexist and thrive on this planet, the one planet that we have, this is a session that they need to come to.
This is the session that they need to come to. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Well, I am looking forward to having you all at the 7th annual Step Up Conference on April 28th from 2 to 4 p.m., which is your session. So thanks, Brett and Jen and Monica, for joining me. And looking forward to having your wisdom shared with everyone in Snohomish County and beyond.
And beyond.
And
Thank you so
beyond.
much.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm looking so
Absolutely.
forward to watching your keynote as well. This has been a delight. Jerry, you're just lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.